Well, guess what? It's October 1. You're here with myself, Jim Check, Ian Burns out there in Ottawa. I'm in Kelowna. Look at the beautiful view in behind me there. Absolutely spectacular fall day here, October 1st, 9 a.m., right on time. We got a really big show as usual. Canada, a decade of self-harm, and it just continues to, and it continues, and it continues, and it continues. Layoffs, layoffs, and more layoffs. Business Council raises the alarm on investment crisis in Canada. Carney not delivering results other than photo ops. Liberals hate being questioned. CRA bigger than the Canadian military. That's surprising, isn't it? While crime runs rampant in Canada, the Toronto mayor talks tacos and dances. Well, Rome burns, eh? Trump cashing in on censorship. And we got a lot more too. It's actually a really good show. Well worth your time. And if you're on here and you're watching, and if you could help us share it, I had a really good conversation with the guy this weekend. He called up. I post lots on LinkedIn, and he's very vocal of what's going on. But he wasn't even aware of Bill C-18 and what it's doing to the Canadian media landscape. We're being actually crushed and silenced by Bill C-18. So if you could help us share, amplify this voice, that would be so much appreciated as we go through this. But we're going to kick it off here with one of our most popular people ever in Canada. Melanie Joly is going to explain to you what's been going on in Canada here. Let's listen in on Melanie Joly.
But today, global markets are shifting. Supply chains are under pressure, and Canadians across the country are really feeling the impacts of all this. At the grocery store, at the gas pump, and when paying their bills. Affordability is the #1 issue in the minds of Canadians. And our government is rising to the challenge with a clear mandate to bring costs down and to build one strong Canadian economy. We've already cut taxes for 22 million Canadians, and we've cut the carbon tax. Competition is another way we're lowering prices because it keeps prices fair, drives innovation, and it provides Canadians with real choice. Let me be clear, this government will be hawkish on competition.
That's good. That's good. Let me be clear.
Is it good?
Let me be clear, Melanie. You did this. You did this. You did this. You and the Liberals did this. 10 years of self-harm. 10 years of self-harm. Destroying the Canadian economy while we sit on vast riches. 10 years of self-harm, and it continues.
But she loves to talk about, she loves to talk as if she's just discovered the most obvious, what is to everyone else the most obvious sort of thing in the world. Like, she did it there in that clip that we just showed. But in the rest of that clip as well, she also said something like, we have discovered that economics and security are intertwined. It's just like, okay. Have you also discovered that, you can pull a cart with an ox? There's this technology out there. She's figured it out.
Well, the only thing, you can't push on a rope, Melanie, and that's what you guys have been doing for 10 years, pushing on a rope. And you've had an agenda that doesn't match what we have as resources here in Canada. You've been pushing something else that we don't have. And it's put us where we are today in this spot where, we're going to talk about it a lot more, but right now Trump has put more tariffs on Canada. And, they push it on Trump, but we put ourselves in this place. They don't owe us anything. The Americans don't owe us anything. We should be where they want us, not where we're talking like they owe us something. If we put our resources out there, they would want something. But they just want a virtue signal, and it just blows me away. Because here you go. Here's some reality for you. Let's listen in to Shannon Stubbs, a Conservative MP. This is what we've done for self-harm. What's that? You want to take a look for it there? It's just her name there. But anyway, it's more of the same. And now they're talking about affordability being the #1 thing. Wasn't that the whole thing all the time? What did they talk about in the election? What was the #1 thing? Anti-Trump, anti-American. That was the
Indeed. But also, what about the government that she served for many years? What was their number one priority? The previous government. I think it
Yeah.
was. I mean, if you can have a number of guesses, but probably climate change, I would say,
Let's play
or
this clip.
maybe feminism, something like that. I mean, certainly wasn't affordability.
Let's play this clip. We're ready.
Let me be extra clear about it. No other country, and importantly, no major oil or gas producing country, has imposed an absolute cap federally on its own production. Not the United States, Canada's biggest energy customer and competitor because of the last anti-development Liberal decade that killed at least 4 Canadian pipelines, dozens of LNG projects, turned the world away from Canada and drove hundreds of thousands of jobs and billions in major projects out of our country. Not Norway, not Saudi Arabia, not a single OPEC nation made up of hostile anti-freedom regimes with lower and often non-existent environmental and human rights standards. The Liberals, 20 months and 3 weeks ago, said the Canadian oil and gas cap was, quote, bold climate leadership. But common sense conservatives saw it for what it was, an unprecedented, arbitrary production cap, the only one of its kind in the entire world, self-harm to Canada by our own federal government.
That's good. I want to go back to, before we cover this, go back to Melanie Joly. She said they're really in on competition. Now competition is going to drive everything. Do you think Mark Zuckerberg calls up Elon Musk and says, you're taking away my traffic, and cries in his soup or tries to blame him? No, they try to get better, right? That's what we need to do. We need to get better instead of blaming the Americans for looking after themselves. I mean, that's their role. America first, that's their role. Our role should be Canada first. That's our role, right? But the Liberals take no responsibility. And this here by Shannon Stubbs here clearly outlines what we've done for self-harm for the past decade. I mean, we can show you chart after chart, and we have shown you chart after chart, what happened 10 years ago, and you can see the divergence from where we've gone to where we're at. And you just do it over and over again. And who had the wheel for the last 10 years? Who has the wheel still? And who's not making any change? Can't hear Ian. There we go. Start over. We couldn't hear you.
I'm just saying it's not the Liberals' fault, obviously, but come on. We've got to look at the global context. But also, I don't know, it's they've obviously tried to change their tune a bit, haven't they? And there are murmurings now that there's an oil pipeline going to be approved any minute now, or it's going to be given the support of the federal government anyway, that Danielle Smith's apparently found.
They changed talking, but they don't. The actions don't support anything, and we're going to go through some of those things. Here's another one, and I said this. We warned about this a long time ago. If you don't change some of your policies on EV mandates and that, you're going to lose the automakers in Ontario. Here it is: GM moving production from Oshawa to Indiana. There you go. The question here by Ryan there is: will Doug Ford burn a Silverado today? Remember when he was pouring out the whiskey? Performative nonsense, right? Make us compete, make us better. I mean, we've actually artificially held down our Canadian dollar, which is the detriment of the consumer, so that we can compete on wages, right? That's why they came here in the first place, cheaper wages, right? And it's that reason. And here we are, we're giving them every reason to go back. These are American companies.
Well, there's two things.
These are American companies.
Yeah. Although they have been in Canada for so long that I think a lot of Canadians, or at least Ontarians, they thought that it was theirs now, didn't they? They thought it's our thing too. And then this is kind of the brutal reality that when you get a bully or whatever you want to call Mr. Trump in the White House, then they're going to go back to their base, and their base is very much the United States. But it is true, lower wages, and it's not just about the dollar, is it? It's also just Canada is a poorer country than the United States. Particularly in the last 10 or 15 years, that's become obvious.
Yeah, well, the last 10 years,
10,
the last decade, we've gone, crime's gone up. It just I can show you chart after chart after chart, and we have. just show me what's improved.
That should be an advantage, shouldn't it? The sad thing is, I'm sure you're familiar with comparative advantage, the economic theory. It's almost like we're getting to that now, and what we have, our advantage is that we can produce things like a first world country while being poorer than the United States or some other first world countries like Switzerland and whatnot. But yeah, the cheap energy, it's that's another thing that should be a massive advantage, because Canada does have quite a lot of that thanks to its hydro. But yeah, it's true. I mean, we're not really playing to those strengths, are we? And then Mexico comes along. Obviously, they have dramatically lower wages, so they were kind of taking a lot of our lunch. So you got to compete.
Well, if you go in the cupboard of Canada's, things to sell, the riches. I mean, just common sense. If you just open the cupboard, it's full of stuff we refuse to sell: oil, gas, mines, uranium. All these things because we have some kind of agenda. And again, if you just apply the liberal policy on top of it, for the benefit of the few and the expense of the many, then it starts to make sense. Oh, we don't want to sell any of that stuff. We do want to sell all this green stuff, wind, and that many nations are now abandoning as too expensive.
Hydrogen.
And hydrogen and all this stuff. Like, how are hydrogen cars doing? Like, let's ask. I've invested in Ballard Energy a long time ago. Take a look at the stock chart of hydrogen. The market tells you the truth. Take a look at it. And here it is, the Business Council here in Ontario, the Business Council of Canada, is talking about Canada is in an investment crisis. We've been talking about that a lot here, though, too. Capital is fleeing Canada. And this is what happens when nations do things that are full of regulation, high taxation, and then there's better opportunities elsewhere. And right now with Trump there, I mean, he has a mandate that he put out there that he's going to make America first. And, like this government and the CBC make it sound like it's a slur word. MAGA, they make it sound like that's the worst thing in the world to be called. Daniel Smith talks about Alberta first. That's one province doing well. Why wouldn't we want to be Canada first? Like Anita Anand gets to the stage and talks how we're going to be multilateralism and that this is the solution for Canada. Is it the solution for Canada? Tell that to the people that can't afford to buy beef right now. Like, I mean, even hamburger, like beef. I was just in Costco, like beef is like through the roof. It's 300% higher than it was 5 years ago. Easily.
Yeah, it's quite very noticeable with beef. And that is even Statistics Canada in the inflation reports every month, even they've noticed it. That's when you know it's a big deal if it's shown up in the stats as well. It's not just a conspiracy theory. But this is very interesting though from the Business Council of Canada because really this intervention here is not so much about the investment crisis. It's more about the federal budget. That it seems like quite a lot of people in positions of responsibility in this country seem to be very, very anxious about this budget that's coming up on November the 4th, I think they promised, didn't they? Next month, anyway.
The budget that we haven't had
what
forever.
He says, yeah, what he says here, the CEO of this Business Council of Canada, is he points to things like everyone's favorite debt to GDP ratio, but also the way of organizing it into capex and operational capital expenditure and operational expenditure. This kind of trickery that the Liberals are about to pull off to try and make it look like the deficit is not as bad as it in fact is. It's just a little bit worrying, really, that it's more and more people are popping their heads up. This doesn't really happen that often, as anybody that follows the news is aware. It doesn't happen that often in Canada where you see this kind of thing. And for the interim PBO head, to come out and use the language that he used last week.
Shocking, stupefying,
this is quite frightening. But also, just the very fact that this conversation is going on is also bad for investment in Canada and bad for the Canadian economy. And it's kind of, we really are in quite sort of frightening times, I think.
Yeah, capital wants certainty. And guess who's offering it right now? I mean, this is the harsh reality. Guess who's offering certainty for your capital? Guess who's offering certainty for capital?
The orange one.
Yeah, keep slurring and just keep doing all those things. Again, just ask yourself how much coverage CBC and CTV do on this topic, which is probably the most important topic right now in Canada. But they will put up stories about Kai Trump, posing in front of the White House, selling golf merchandise. How is that important to Canadians putting food on the table? I'm just not sure. Top story right now on CBC's website. So if you go on CBC News and you go to top stories, it's where they put the big boys, the real big stories, is what Palestinians think of Trump's proposed ceasefire plan. So that's a perfect example. I'm so glad you said that. Just go on CBC's website. We're not making this up.
they really do focus on. There you go. They really do focus on just the
Well,
most
look at the other stories
ridiculous
there. Look at the other stories there. Trump, like Trump. How many Trump? There's 3 Trump stories. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 Trump stories. They're just right there. That's good. 4 Trump stories right there. Where's the budget? Where's this path to Venezuela? Like, I mean, this is what we're on. Jason Jacks, again, a CPA, MBA, alarming, shocking, stupefying, unsustainable.
Not language that you typically hear from a bean counter, is it really? I'm sure you would say.
No. And then Anita Anand made that big speech at the UN and talked about how Canada is leading the world in multilateralism and Canada will take the lead. And if they pan out and show you the room, empty. Nobody cares what Canada has to say. Nobody cares. And it's performative, it's virtue signaling, it's nonsense. We need a government that is serious about getting to work to help Canadians meet their bills. 89% of Canadians don't think they can, like they're $200 away from meeting their monthly obligations. And I mean, stat after stat after stat. And they just continue down this road, driving investment out of Canada. And this is it right here. Our biggest resource, and that is our biggest resource is energy. And yet we don't want to deploy it for some unknown reason. We want to put nothing but roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, label it with climate change, label it with this and label it with that, and give voices like CBC and CTV. Don't go there other than take a look at that nonsense. They're definitely selling you a story. But anyway, lots of layoffs there. And Smith blames the Liberals as Imperial Oil pledges to slash jobs. And that's Alberta Premier Daniel Smith and Tim Hodgson have expressed disappointment with U.S.-owned Imperial Oil planning to lay off 20% of its workforce by 2027. And she says it's due to uncertainty in the industry following 10 years being hampered and hobbled by federal government decisions. They're going where capital is accepted. Because what is Trump saying? Drill, baby, drill. They're going to open up fields. They're going to open up offshore stuff. So where are they going to go?
I mean, Trump's even got a hat that says drill, baby, drill, hasn't he? That's how serious he is about it.
The CBC and CTV put out stories on how oil is destroying the world. So why would you want to stay in a nation that makes you scared to have, like, if you walk around with an Esso logo? Esso used to be one of the coolest logos. Esso used to sponsor Hockey Night in Canada all the time. Esso used to be like really cool, you know what I mean? Like you would say, but these companies basically, you can go down in some of the cities there. Instead of like a big logo on top of the building, they have tiny little logos because they just don't want a bunch of protesters out front. This is what we've done to ourselves. This is our self-harm. Meanwhile, other nations,
somebody's done it to us. Yeah. Somebody's inflicted this harm.
Look at Norway and what they've done. Their sovereign wealth fund has over $300,000 per capita. All off of what? Oil and gas.
Yep. Well, and they've also, as you've pointed out a number of times, they've also gone really hard on electrification and lots of sort of green policies internally while selling their fossil fuels overseas. That's what a smart country does, isn't it?
I didn't put it in here, but you want to talk about smart. Evan Solomon, the failed journalist and art dealer. I don't know who sells art anyway, and he was selling that art to Mark Carney as well, one of his art dealing customers. And then he went to work for Eurasia Group. Now he was on the stage there talking about how Canada is now touring across Canada, talking about an AI strategy. So we're going to wring our hands, waste money, and meanwhile, we're probably 2 years away from singularity, and all the American companies are so far ahead of us. And we're going to, go around Canada and ask you, the consumer, what you think of our AI strategy should be. More.
I mean, it's basically going to end up. It's going to end up a bit like the EU, isn't it? And it'll just be, the approach will be almost exclusively regulatory. It's like, how can we regulate this thing that the Americans have invented that we haven't even tried to compete with them on? Because it is true. I mean, while he's doing foolish things like that, you have the Americans, you have like Grok, you have, I mean, there's so many of them, but the main ones
All
like
of them.
Elon Musk.
So many of them, all of them.
Yeah, ChatGPT. No, I mean the names like Perplexity, that's one, isn't it? And
Odd, yeah.
Claude and all. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
They're just like, it seems to me they're almost like they're burning the midnight oil, aren't they? To get the next version out, and then the next version, and the next version. While we haven't even really started yet. It's
They
kind
don't
of
even have a version. Like there was a laugh there. One of the auto execs or one of the auto parts suppliers came out and said Canada needs to have its own automobile company. Really? It was called the Bricklink.
Oh yeah, that was funny. That was the head of the union, wasn't it? The head of the auto union.
But also, there is a Canadian guy that is probably the only successful auto startup in the past 50 years that we have vilified here in Canada. His name is Elon Musk, and the most important man in history right now, in modern industrialist history, in this technological change here. And that's been said by many people other than Canada, of course.
And he's also someone who's happy to go overseas to build, like he's in Germany
Berlin.
and in China. Yeah, he goes overseas. So the saddest thing of all is that like there maybe was a possibility for Canada to benefit from the very like vanguard of the tech revolution.
Do you know where there is an opportunity right now for Canada? AI, Kevin O'Leary pitched it, is just like allow us to use our energy to build massive data centers and tap into the the LNG and the oil and gas and all that stuff. But there's no talk about that. Anyway, this is what the Carney liberals were doing while they were running for election. They ran a poll there because they wanted to get everybody all that rabid frothing about hating America. The poll was we should do an energy boycott to the United States. I mean, that would have worked out so well, when we were talking about, cutting off the electricity. Ontario and Quebec was going to cut off the electricity, not realizing that, like BC relies on that electricity from the United States. Also, all our oil and gas that goes out east goes through the United States. I mean, it's just crazy. And then Trump also said at this time, he said that if you do that, this will be, what is it said? Because Ford said he wanted to do this, but he rescinded it after one day because Trump said a financial price so big it will be read about in the history books. I mean, he likes to pontificate for sure. But, this is what they did to win the election. This is what they did. They stirred up this anti-American rhetoric, and we're still living with it.
Quite crazy that was being contemplated, because that really was going to be self-harm, that wasn't it? Because if you start that with the US, they can give it back probably worse than we can give it to them.
But it wasn't about what's strategic for Canada, what's going to work for Canada. It was like, let's poll the voter base and see what rabid meat they want today. Is that how we have policy? If that's not populism, what is?
Well, yeah. I mean, this would fit into the category of populism, because populism it's not really a word that's ever been properly defined, but it's kind of this idea that it's like those people over there screwing up your life, and I'm the one that can protect you from them. That's basically what it is. And that was exactly what the Liberal campaign consisted of. The Americans are doing this. The Tories will just make it worse or be traitors or something, and I'm the one that can intervene and protect you.
There's a lot more for you to get mad at. Yeah, we got more. So don't get too complacent here. Canada's trade with this is where Mark Carney went off to Europe there. He to sort of the UK there to watch that rugby match. But he said he was making deals. So he was met with the Prime Minister, and I can't even pronounce her name. Can you, Kristen? Maybe Frostador. That's a good name for
Where is this? Oh, Kristen Frostadottir. This is the one that she was there in that the famous London conversation that they had on the stage. She was there, and then the person that hosted it referred to as the Prime Minister of Finland, which I've never seen before. I've never seen somebody make a mistake that bad in an event like that. Well worth watching.
Look at the trade deals we have with this vast nation called Iceland. What are we selling? Ice back and forth? What's going on there? Exports of 51 million, imports of 160 million. That'll put food on the table for this big energy nation. I'm gonna guess that where Iceland gets its energy? Norway.
I don't know. I think they might have geothermal in Iceland, but it's such a tiny country. I mean, it's smaller than like, or it's a similar size to like the Central Okanagan or something like that. It's like a few 100,000 people.
But this
So
this is what they think of the voters. They think they put this out and show you how we don't need the United States. Look what we have here. Look what we have. And here's a chart that actually Canadian exports by country. So there's the United States, and there's the rest. The rest, all the rest, you know, like Iceland doesn't make the list because it's too far down on the list, right? Like it would probably be, you know, a few other tiers down, but there's the rest. And the 9 don't even add up to a quarter of the top one.
well, that is quite fascinating though when you look at number 2 and number 3. All the brouhaha with China. I mean, that says to me that we basically just don't have any trade, or we certainly don't export like anything to China, basically. Because they think of the size of the Chinese market, and they only take the same amount as the British, which is a tiny country. I mean, Britain itself is about the size of a Chinese province.
Temu probably sells that much to Canada in a week. I'm only kidding.
Yeah, I'd like in the other direction. It would be enormous, but you need to buy more of our stuff, China. Come and get some canola.
Why aren't they serious about the United States? Why do they keep sticking a stick in the eye? That just blows me away. It just absolutely. And here's another. Dan Elvis put this out, and this is from the National Post, though he retweeted this. Twice in 4 days, Carney scheduled official photo ops. So they're good at photo ops because there's that fake building, and then there was the fake, or the bags of wheat in Mexico there with the stickers that didn't even comply with Canada, French, English language requirements for labeling. And they couldn't even get that part right. You know what I mean? It's just like they got, what, 20-some-year-olds working there doing all this fake stuff. And why all the fake photo ops? Where's the real deal? Like, you know, like Wendy's used to say, where's the beef, man? Like, where's the beef? Because it surely isn't on Canadian kitchen tables because they can't afford it. That's where the beef is, not there.
So I must object to this headline from the National Post referring to it as a literal Potemkin village. It's not literally a Potemkin village, is it? That's in Russia. But anyway, no, the idea behind that is true, though. It's to try to distort reality. But then, you know, they've been doing this for a very long time. Leaders, it's not, it isn't just Carney, is it? Let's we'll cut them some slack for once.
This one here, this is what they resort to when they get caught and when they get questioned. And this is the typical. When the Liberals get questioned and they don't have an answer, they go and like, this is not the time to be doing this, right? So this is when they question Patty Hajdu. She's facing the Human Resources Committee, questioning her over Cabinet's unprecedented use of the Canadian Labour Code to quash lawful strikes. We've seen that with Air Canada and Canada Post, right? And then it comes back and it says like, you know, this is not the time to be talking about this. This is the time for Canada to stick together. They just don't like being questioned.
No, and they're not unique in that regard, are they? Their friends over the border, their ideological brethren over the border, also had that reputation when they were in power, didn't they? And certainly in the Joe Biden era.
And then says, you know, do we want to have a study just because we're trying to embarrass the government because this is a hot issue right now and everybody's talking about it? And that's from Liberal MP Annie Couturis. I would like to think that that's not the case. I'd like to make sure everyone around this table is working in good faith for Canadians. Are we working in good faith for Canadians? 10 years, like look at all the charts. Like I would like to be there and just start putting charts on the table. Where are we working for Canadians in good faith? Where? Show me the evidence where we've been working in good faith for all Canadians, other than the benefit of the few at the expense of the many. I don't know. And this is what
But they still thought it was important to go research the Canadian people's views on an energy blockade of the United States. That was important.
And this is how, like there's a lot of companies leaving, like going to the US because of tariffs, regulation, taxation, all these things. And what's the union's response? We told you about her once before, where she said that they were going to start seizing assets. Now they want to prosecute tariff jumpers. Canadian companies that shift production in the United States to evade tariffs should face prosecution under a 40-year-old law, says Uniform petition. This is the Uniform to the Commons Finance Committee. That's the largest private sector union. So again, you're going to scare capital from coming to Canada, that you're going to seize their assets, you're going to like penalize them if they can't compete. And they go, you know what I mean? Like this is not going to bring more investment to Canada. It's going to scare more away.
This is the same union led by the woman that said that, what you just said, isn't it? We should seize assets and nationalize.
Lana Payne, and she's the Unifor National President. May 20th, sort of extraordinary measures were required. This is the fight of our lives. We must take a stand now. Corporations need to understand every move they make will have consequences. No company should have a false idea they can move jobs south and then get a free ride shipping products back to Canada. Capital goes
to
where
be fair,
appreciated.
I mean, Trump is kind of doing something similar to that, isn't he? I mean, that's kind of central to his economic policy. It's like if you've offshored and you've gone and abandoned, or if you're planning on doing that, abandoning US workers, we will tariff your products when you try and sell them into the United States. Exactly. But obviously, it's a little bit different when you're talking about the world's #1 consumer whose citizens spend the most money on products, and like the essential nation in economics, at least, which is the United States. It's different when you talk about them versus when you're talking about a country of 40 million that's not, particularly high up the consumer list.
Well, I mean, for the people that want to make direct comparisons to Canada and the United States, we're not in the same boat. We don't have the US dollar as a reserve currency that all the central banks use. Canada's dollar is not a reserve currency for anybody, not even ourselves. We buy US T-bills. We don't have a military. We're going to talk about that later. We don't have a military of any consequence. All we can do is stand up at the podium like Anita Anand there at the UN to an empty room and talk about how Canada is going to lead. That's what we have.
But that's the point. I mean, the British talk about this a lot. The British actually do have a bit of a military and nuclear weapons and so on, and the pound is a bit more desired than the Canadian dollar. But they're similar countries. But in Britain, they talk about soft power. And they say things like, the monarchy, and I don't know if they still say things like the Beatles, but you know what I mean, like cultural power. And that Britain can therefore, if you're the leader of Britain or somebody powerful in Britain, you can stand up and say, do this, please. And the soft power will persuade people to go along with it. I think in Canada, there's this assumption that maybe we also have like loads and loads of soft power. And somebody like Anita Anand can just stand up and say something and people will be like, oh, all right, I'm going to listen because it's Canada. I mean, if they are under that impression, I think they need to be, they need to be disabused of that notion. I don't think Canada has much soft power. I think Canada nowadays, it's almost like a meme, I find, on the internet. Like it's when Americans and Europeans look at Canada, they look at it as kind of sort of hyper-liberalism, like liberalism gone wrong or something like that. It seems to be it's like a lesson for other countries. So I really don't think that we're not swimming in soft power right now, or hard power.
10 years ago, people used to wear the maple leaf all around the world because Canada was respected and was seen as one of these countries of tons of freedom and opportunity. You don't get that anymore. I mean, I was in Vegas a while ago, and when I talked to them from Canada, he just laughed. He's from Russia, and he just laughed. He said that nobody wants to go to Canada. He said it's just been ruined. So there you go.
It's that's the soft power. The reputation of this country has taken a massive hit over the last 10 years.
This is just Shannon Stubbs again. We'll go by that. We already talked about that. And then this is just a thing talking about, the federal government is unwilling to bail out the Canada Post because it's losing too much money. Yet we provide $1.55 billion a year to the CBC. What's their top story again today? What was it again? What
do Palestinians think of Donald Trump?
There's 4 stories on their top page of what is there, 10? We'll pull up their website again. Let's have a look. How many stories in that top fold there? And how many of them have the word Trump in them for the rabid? Like who goes there? Is this like, let's see, there you go. So there's their top story, Palestinian, they get Trump story. And then Trump.
Tony Blair.
Yeah, don't go down.
Trump, Trump,
Trump, right? Where's
And then we
the
got
budget?
belugas. Don't forget the belugas there. And also, apparently, there's been a gas explosion at an apartment in New York City. That's
Yeah.
very high up in the agenda. Just, I mean, unfathomable. Absolutely unfathomable.
Where's the
The
budget?
editor, the news editor, the page editor, whoever it is in charge of this at CBC, is quite literally having a laugh, I think.
Let's just for a joke. Let's pull up CTV News. Like you search CTV News and see what they have at the top of the fold. Let's see if the budget makes it on the top fold there. Let's see if they have it.
More belugas. Beluga. I've jumped the gun and we got belugas. We got belugas, we got Trump,
No, no, you got to go to
and we've got
CTV News.
Montreal. There's been a shooting, sadly.
CTV News. You got to go to that one. Yeah, not that other one. What do we got here? There's a shooting at Starbucks. There's a picture of Trump. I can't see it from I got my glasses on here.
It says the fact that Canada is mentioned is not good. Analyst says of Trump's latest 51st state jab.
That's good. That's good. There you go. Trump. Here's a little meme for you. If all humans suddenly lost the ability to lie, which industry would collapse first? There's a thought for you. There's thought-provoking. Which industry would collapse first?
Surely the professional liars in Hollywood, the actors.
All right, let's play this clip here from another MP in Parliament here, asking a question.
How many full-time equivalents are there right now for the employee count of the CRA?
How many employees? About 58,000 in the agency, about 58,000.
Army of 58,000 tax collectors. The Canadian Army has only 33,899 full-time active personnel. Your army of tax collectors.
Who are we at war with?
The taxpayer. Was she? I have to ask. Was she speaking through a translator there? Does she not speak English?
Yeah, no, she was just didn't want to answer the question, so
Because that sounded to me like it was dubbed. Like somebody, like you know how they have translators there. If that's the case,
just stalling.
Then yeah, remarkable. But yeah, that tells you about the priorities, really, doesn't it, of the federal government?
So here's another one from Holly Nolan Blacklocks. The president of the Ontario College, listed among the heaviest users of foreign student permits, says Canada lost trust and credibility in curbing applications. Imagine that, eh? Imagine that, right?
Because I mean, that's your favorite phrase nowadays. You can't look for a better example, can you? Of for the few, not the many.
For the benefit of the few, at the expense of the many, right?
It was about the few. It was about the people that were on the gravy train. It was about the people who were getting constant pay rises. These university administrators on like several $100,000 a year, despite having no obvious talents. They were loving this. I mean, there's never been a better time for people like that, has there? And while everyone else had to kind of deal with the consequences of suddenly not being able to see a doctor or get their kid into a school or something.
And then, they were taking in, like, what was this? MP Michelle Rempel-Gardner from Calgary says that, from 21 to 24, you guys took in about 50,000 international students. And did the federal government give you the impression that level of permitting, what you were receiving, go on indefinitely? And it's just, they were living off of it and just living off of it, right?
It was a bonanza. It was a gold rush, wasn't it? And it's kind of the greatest shame of all isn't necessarily that they did it. That is kind of shameful and selfish, but understandable, I suppose. I would say the greatest shame is that they did it, and then when they tried to justify themselves, and when when people realized they started to take it away from them, they started saying things like, "Oh no, like now we're not going to cure cancer," and things like that. We're not going to be able to do all. It's like that's not what this is about at all. This is not like, and they talk about it's like an attack on education and stuff like that. No, it's an attack on a scam.
Guess how much David Agnew, the president of Toronto Seneca College of Applied Arts and Technology, and this is not like a huge college, right, or university. Guess how much he makes a year? Take a stab at it.
$500,000?
Yeah,
That's the figure.
$450,000 a year. This is so they were living off of this, and everybody was like the few were living high on the hog, taking foreign students before they would take Canadian kids, and this is just like the gravy train. And you know, like a lot of the, it's again, a lot of corporations relied on cheap labor. This whole temporary foreign workers program. Again, these are liberal policies. And you know what it did? It taxed food banks and all kinds of things, so these people couldn't even look after themselves. But hey, the colleges were getting scads of cash. We've seen the layoffs. We've done tons of stories on colleges. I guess these colleges. What do you say? There's some in Ontario, like catering college, that were making massive amounts of money. And just like these pop-up colleges were just making up crazy amounts of money, and enough to afford to pay Mr. Agnew there $450,000 a year. Are you making that at home? Are you making that as a Canadian?
If you're not, you know how to now. Just do something that screws over the rest of the country but benefits you. Then you'll be absolutely wadded. And then you'll have enough money to leave when everything goes wrong.
Yeah, and then just make sure that you put that slogan prominently there. Say, part of the Liberal Party for the benefit of the few, the expense of the many. And then make sure that you get into that club. Maybe there's a secret handshake or something like that. Because right now, the media in Canada, for the benefit of the few, the expense of the many. So the CBC, Mark Carney said it himself, he's going to fund them more while he chokes off independent media. And with Bill C-18, has choked off our ability to access our audience that we earn serving our community for over a decade. And meanwhile, fills the trough with CBC. And the first thing they did, what did they do? Just like Mr. Agnew there, they slopped up, right? All the executives got a raise. Mark Carney gave them another $150 million after winning the election to raise their budget to $1.55 billion. The first thing they did was give themselves a raise, the executive team. Imagine that, hey?
Well-deserved.
Well-deserved. Obviously well-deserved, right? Go look at their website. Look how they're talking to Canadians. Go look at that and see. I'm sure that, you just put up anti-Trump rhetoric, and just go check it at. It's steady. Go look at the CTV X account. Look what they put out there on a constant basis. But here's some good news. A couple of days late and a couple bucks short. The CRTC yesterday, they don't need a phone book anymore. The telecom industry, you don't have to have a phone book. I don't know the last time I saw a phone book. I don't know. Who has a landline? I guess that's the question. I don't know.
Nah,
and you talk about
businesses. That's all I can think of.
You talk about our telecom industry, and here's what they should be doing. They talk about how they got to get internet to different parts of the world, a bit different rural parts of Canada here, because there's some places don't have cell. I worked up north at a mine site. Just Starlink, man. Just Starlink. Just get over yourself, and get over yourself.
It is sad though that the age of the phone book. People who are like very young won't even know what we're talking about there, will they? That like maybe they've seen it in a film once or something. But it is like, it's kind of sad. It seems like an era, like it seems like we've lost our innocence in a way. Because it used to be like when I was a kid, I can remember like everybody was in the phone book. Even if you just private citizens, if you just wanted to phone somebody that you knew but you didn't know their number, you could probably find them in the phone book. It's kind of remarkable that we had that level of like transparency and openness.
They were just absolutely predatory, the Yellow Pages salespeople. I mean, just on businesses,
Yeah.
I can remember like how much it would cost for a page, like an ad, like pizza. Like when you go to pizza, then you go to the big cities and the phone book's yay thick. And, like the companies would call themselves 5A pizza because it'd be 1A pizza, like AA, AAA, 4A, because you want to get first in the phone book. So when people are like, absolute insanity, absolute insanity. But here's another one for the Liberals, like this group petitioning them. And this is how in Canada, though, too, we have fringe parties that represent what? How much does the Green Party represent in Canada? 0.5% of the population? If that, I don't know.
Yeah, a few percent, I think. I'm not sure what they got in the federal election, but I think it was under 10 anyway.
How many seats do they have in Canada here?
Wow, so they actually, you were a lot closer. I was thinking maybe of BC, where they're a bit beefier. They sometimes get into double figures for the percentage of the vote. But in the federal election just gone, it was 1.22% of the vote went to the Greens. But I suppose they only stand in they don't stand in that many ridings, do they, federally? So,
And
but yeah, they have an outsized influence for sure.
yeah, because of the country being kind of split with the, the Liberals and the Conservatives, and when it's that close, they tend to have more influence, especially in British Columbia here. But these environmental groups, I did an interview with I think the Seniors for Climate Change, or what was it? Some kind of seniors activist group there that didn't want a whole
Yeah, and
bunch.
they were part of the what was that? Some sort of protest movement. I can't remember the name of it now. But where they'd all joined together, hadn't they? All the like pro-Palestine and everything. They were all
And
in it together.
I asked her about jobs for youth, and she said, we don't need jobs for youth. Everybody should just work for the Climate Corps. And here they are petitioning the government for to launch a Climate Corp, and they want $1 billion a year. We've got tons of money for this, right? Don't we? So the cabinet proposed a similar initiative in its election platform, but at a pilot at, like a smaller amount. But they want $1 billion a year toward this Climate Corps here. The investment must go further to truly meet the moment. Good green jobs for young Canadians, wrote this climate action group. The Liberal Party in its April 28th election platform, Canada's Strong, stated a Mark Carney-led government will establish a youth climate corps pilot, which will provide paid skills training young Canadians to quickly respond to climate emergencies. And they estimated about $28 million annually for 2 years at most. But hey, why not ask for $1 billion a year, right? And this is going to go well for Canada. This is what I mean, self-harm. We just basically just... And of course, David Suzuki. And if you go look at David Suzuki's
He's everywhere, isn't he? That guy.
He's done quite well, though, too, as is, Stephen Gabot's companies have done quite well in this climate thing, as has Brookfield. Imagine that. Again, for the benefit of the few at the expense of the many.
They're not exactly living like the Buddha, are they? These people who they try and act like the Buddha when they go around and try and advise people to stop doing things, to withdraw from life and live in harmony with nature. But somehow, yeah, they all seem to make a lot of money and go all over the world and have these big conferences and things. Something I found funny there, a line you didn't read, which was they said it should, but the budget in 2025 should invest an initial down payment of $1 billion a year. That's just initial. We're gonna go further than that.
Well, I do want to get that young lady that just won the leadership here for the Green Party, BC Green Party, because she says that they don't want any LNG, they don't want any oil and gas, they don't want any this, that, and another thing. And you wonder how they're going to pay for anything. I mean, I guess they never form government, so they don't have to be realistic. But what was you said there? It's just tax. I think her post said tax billionaires out of existence. Again, that will cause capital to come to Canada, right? That'll just Elon Musk will say that's the place I want to invest, right?
Well, she's also very, as we said before, she's very active in the sort of like Indigenous land rights, or whatever you want to call it, movement. So presumably she would be in favor of quite a lot of territory in Canada and British Columbia no longer belonging to sort of private citizens, but to bands and First Nations and things. Again, if you want, even the money that's still in BC, if you want that to be sucked out into Washington State or whatever, do that. That's a good idea.
The minimum wage went up in Ontario this October 1st, and Danielle Smith got the lowest minimum wage in Canada now. She said she will not be raising minimum wage because doing so will hurt the youth employment. And we've kind of seen that in Canada. I mean, I've talked to, I remember one employer here in the Okanagan here had several grocery stores. And then, the margins are so slim in these specialty grocery stores. And it was just usually students that she had working there, that's their first job. And, with EHT, that, and a whole bunch of things, they closed them all up. All 5 of them closed and said that they just couldn't do it. They couldn't compete with the large stores. So, but here's the minimum wages across Canada. Here, we'll just kind of go through the list. Alberta's at $15, and I guess it was high at one point because it hasn't changed. It's unchanged since 2018. So it would have been one of the higher minimum wages at one point. They just haven't done anything with it forever. British Columbia at 1785 now. That's effective June 1st. Manitoba it just went up from 1580, so it wasn't far away from Alberta's. It's now 16 bucks, so $1 more. New Brunswick 1565, very close to Alberta. Newfoundland 16. I mean, people in Newfoundland lucky to have a job ever since they kiboshed all their oil stuff. Northwest Territories 1695. I don't know. That's a tough place to make 1695. Nova Scotia 1570. None of it at 1975. And you know, most people would say, "Want to go live in none of it?" And I said, "You'll say, I'll have none of it."
Well, certainly when a tomato costs like $30 or something, I don't know. That's pretty tough to live on that, isn't it? But then again, I mean,
I lived in the north, and it's definitely expensive for sure.
When this story though, I heard it on CBC this morning, and I mean, I'm not surprised to say this about CBC. I wouldn't expect them to do any better because they're not very high quality. But you would think, wouldn't you, from a high quality news provider or something like that, somewhere you would have some information about economists' theories of minimum wage, because you read these stories and it's like, also Danielle Smith is just Scrooge. Then that's it. That's the only logical conclusion to why she's doing this. You wouldn't know that economics experts, professors, and all the rest of it, they talk about the pros and cons of just having a minimum wage at all. Like whether that is actually beneficial to the people or if it's not. Like, this is an active argument, and there are economists that devote their lives to this subject, but you would never know that that's like a hotly debated issue, would you? When you read like an average news report, it's just like, oh, minimum wage is going up. That's just a good thing, unambiguously. It's like not quite. You know, there are lots and lots of arguments about this.
I can tell you right
very,
now,
very serious and highly educated people.
I can tell you right now, $15 an hour is worth more than $17.85 in BC. No PST, cheaper rent, cheaper housing, cheaper gas. Like, you know what I mean? Like $15 in Alberta is better than $17.85. So just, like before you start virtue signaling, start to realize what it costs in British Columbia and other places because of tax. Ontario too. They got that beautiful thing there called the HST, don't they?
Yeah, beautifully harmonized. Talk about the butter. But there's another warning from places like Britain, my the land of my fathers there, where they introduced a living wage. A Conservative government actually did that. And you kind of see this, they have a name for it, I can't remember what it is, like wage compression, I think, where it's like almost everybody, no matter what their job is paid very similar amounts of money. And there's no differentiation across the professions, even between like management and staff, like really not big variety in wages. And that's, I've read a few economists talking about that or trying to describe that, and they said that is a consequence of that policy of the living wage.
So here's Anita Anand, the foreign minister, is off to India and China. I mean, look what Trudeau and them did with the India relationships, and where she plans to take two distinct approaches, mending frayed ties. Who frayed those ties? Frayed, it was you. Frayed, it was you.
But apparently Justin Trudeau, like, he's just some stranger that none of these people have ever met. That's the way that they act now.
Frayed not, right? You know what I mean? Frayed, it was you. And India is one of the tougher places to do trade. They got some of the biggest tariffs going into India. Like, it's hard to sell stuff into India. Very, very hard. So good luck in India. Same for China, right? Same for China. Like, I mean, China is about China, right? Guess who China puts first? Is it Maca? Because they don't seem to go after, and they don't call a slur on China, because China's all about China, right?
Oh, well, you could even say the Communist Party of China. That's their priority.
There's no disputing, but no, they just figure that they need to attack Trump all the time, and just, it's crazy. I don't know what this thing is here. Did you put this in here? This lane is hot. What is that? I have no idea what that is. So let's just I don't know what that is. We're going to move on to our BC news here, next segment here.
Coming to you live from the NowMedia newsroom.
There you you go. And the big thing is we're going to talk about crime, and it's kind of like all over Canada, but the the city of Kelowna is once again calling for higher levels of government to act immediately to improve public safety. This is, this bail reform, and let's not forget Sean Fraser wants to work on this online harms thing before he works on crime for some strange reason where, many mayors, many provinces are asking for bail reform, right? It's just like a revolving door. We've talked about this many times here. At least a few people causing most of the crime in cities here. It's true in Kelowna, true in Vancouver, and true across the country. And they commit these atrocious crimes, and they usually sometimes even beat the police before the police can finish their report. They're out on the street. I remember I'm talking to a couple officers here in Kelowna, and they arrested the same guy 3 times. And they, to the point where they're just like, it's just a waste of time, Jim. That's what they told me. It's just a waste of time. Because, I have to do the paperwork. He beats me out the door. Like I'm still doing the paperwork. He's back on the street, and I go and arrest him 3 times in one day. Arrest the same guy. And it's just...
That's an interesting way to look at it, isn't it? Like, what a profound insult that is to these police officers. It's even beyond an insult.
To the victim, too. Think about the victim, right?
Well, I'm the victim, yeah. But you're expecting the cops to go out there, and it's not quite the case in Canada the same way it is in the US, but, theoretically, it could go very wrong, and they could be hurt, or, God forbid, even killed in trying to arrest somebody.
We saw that in Kelowna,
you're expecting them to do this, and then they know when they do it. They'll know right away. Probably when they get the call, they'll know, oh, he's going to be out. He'll be out on bail by the time I've, finished the paperwork. It's just such a horrible thing to do to somebody, to undermine. And it's not just their professional life. It's almost like who they are as people. And they put their life on the line.
There's this famous case.
This is what they get. This is a slap in the face that they get.
There's this famous case in Kelowna, right? The young lady that lost her life, shortly after he was released.
Allegedly, it's still going through
that's what
courts,
I'm saying.
I think, isn't it?
I have Macklin McCall. I think it's today. It was supposed to be yesterday, but we obviously didn't have anybody in here to do the live stream yesterday. I was here, but nobody else was here. But Macklin McCall, MLA here for the BC Conservatives, put out a tangible common sense plan to address serious and rising crime in BC, while others offer lip service and empty promises. Only Conservatives are putting forward a plan. I mean, this seems reasonable. Freeze assets, prosecute under anti-terror laws, deploy RCMP gang units, mandatory sentences, deport non-citizen offenders. I don't understand how these would be up for debate. This should be just like, okay, that sounds like fun. If somebody comes into this country, they're not a citizen, and they break the law, they should lose their right to be here.
Well, certainly if they're doing business with what's now classed as a terrorist organization, Bishnoi gang, yeah, they can be. But even if they're not, really, a lot of this should apply, shouldn't it? Certainly deportation. You wouldn't expect. I always like to bring it down just to the personal level, to as small a sort of level as possible, a more intimate level. If you went into somebody's house as a guest and disgraced yourself, and you were violent or something, or you tried to steal things, you wouldn't expect to be kept in that house, would you? You'd be kicked out. To think that deportation is a relatively rare occurrence in Canada is strange, isn't it?
Sean Fraser would say, well, we probably just, you weren't given enough while you were there, so maybe you should
you weren't given enough appetizers.
Maybe you should be give him more whiskey and see what happens. Here's the result of crime, too, that is not protecting businesses, and these are when the big store starts pulling out. It's happened in the U.S., too. Walmart shutting down in Prince Rupert. Because it's too dangerous to operate. They're saying, this is from Prince Rupert Walmart there, we'd like to provide the Prince Rupert community with an update, basically saying, while the store was initially closed out of concern for safety of our associates and customers, the prolonged closure led to a larger review of the store location, operations, and our long-term plans. There you go.
And I'm sure that's a pretty big deal, isn't it, for a place like Prince Rupert to lose that? Massive for costs, right? Massive for costs. I mean, people go to Walmart because it's cheap. You're sure not going to Walmart for the ambiance, right? You're going there because it's cheap. Well, it's also competition, Yeah. Talk about economic theory. That will drive down costs for everyone. And so to lose a big player in the market, you've got to assume that prices are going to increase now at the other stores. And we're not going to play this clip here, but 4 reasons that this is from
Polyev, right? 4 reasons: industrial carbon tax, clean fuel reg, food packaging, inflation tax, and all these things. It's over and over and over again. I think everybody's heard that, right? But Olivia Chow, the Toronto mayor, because she knows who to tap for more money. She says that the government's not paying, the feds aren't paying for the asylum seekers. So she's just going to raise your taxes. Hey, just squeeze people till there's nothing left. Just squeeze them, right? Just squeeze them. And meanwhile, Olivia Chow, let's see what Olivia Chow, how did she become mayor? Check it out. Here's Olivia Chow here. While Toronto burns, Rome burns, this is Olivia Chow.
Different vegetable, so I have the salsa, the guacamole, and the different vegetable, different salads, and then different cheese, and then you have the chicken, and then you have the shrimp, and then you have the beef, you have soft taco, and then corn taco, and this kind of taco, yeah, so I love having taco.
That's good. I think she might have been having some refreshments with those tacos, but she's always dancing. She's always living in her own world.
She's got such a funny demeanor as well, hasn't she? She's very conducive to memes. I always see her in various memes. But yeah, Toronto, things are going great in Toronto, apparently, aren't they? If she's that happy.
Things are amazing. And here, we talk about housing being one of the biggest crises in Canada. And here's the thing, and this is Quadra CEO Sean Bouchard warns of BC's incoming energy efficiency and carbon reduction rules, right? In the Step Code 4 will add about, and I've talked to other builders here in the Okanagan too. Step Code 4 will add $25,000 to the cost of a new home, and it'll take about 114 years to pay back that energy. So we're just going to play a small clip of what he says. People are actually starting to find their, because they're all scared about being, carrying the woke banner, climate change. You dare not speak out against climate change and all this stuff. But here's listen in we'll just play a couple seconds of this.
We have a serious challenge.
You got to turn that way up.
A very serious challenge of producing housing right now. More serious than anything in my entire career. And it's a long one. I've built over 6,000 homes, 38 different projects, $1.2 billion. It's never been worse than it is today. So I'm not even going to talk from my notes because I want to talk about the seriousness that we have and how important it is for the government to take the action needed to help address this serious problem. We have lots of experts here, lots of experts in the industry. I'm a for-market developer, but I've also done affordable housing projects, and I've also done deeply affordable projects.
That's good. We'll stop here. I have Renee Merrifield, also a builder developer, on later. She's also a former MLA. She's going to be on later today with me. I think it's at noon or 12:30. Is it 12:30? I think today that she's going to. 12:30. She'll be on with me. We'll talk about this more in depth because she's raised this concern quite a few times. The solution by the NDP and the Liberals is for the regulational hurdles in that is what? More regulation. More regulation and more regulation will fix it. You know what I mean? We've seen this over and over and over. 25%. We'll ask Renee later. I think it's 25% of the cost of a house is just regulations and inspections and all these things. And then they talk about how we got to get more homes built, but all they do is get in the way.
But can you imagine, in a crisis as enormous as this one, the housing crisis, can you imagine thinking one of the priorities would be carbon reduction, putting that on? I mean, that just tells you the priorities, though, doesn't it? Anybody that's curious, anybody that's trying to kind of surmise what the motives are, or the hierarchy of priorities is for the Liberal government. There you go. Today? The housing crisis couldn't be any worse. I mean, I say that it probably is going to get worse. But despite that, they're still tacking on the carbon malarkey, aren't they? Because that's their true passion.
What's our theme today? Self-harm. There you go. For the benefit of the few at the expense of the many. Here's
although this is less self-harm, this is more like sadism, isn't it? Because everybody that's writing these policies that impoverish the masses, they're all on $500,000 a year, as we've learned.
We did that story last week, right? The head of CMHC, the lady there, I can't remember her name off the top of my head though. $551,000 annual salary, 33% bonus, and they took $30 million and they spread it over the executive team, $33 million in bonuses. And then they washed their hands of their old mandate and said that they would have all the youth or all people that wanted a home by 2030 would have one. Now she said that's not our job. Right? Our job is actually how to get a raise, I guess. That's the function of the CMHC. How to get more money.
How to get a second cottage in another province. Already got one cottage. Need to get the next one now.
We have reached out to get some reaction from the Canadian film and TV industry here, because we do a lot of Hallmark videos here, especially here in Kelowna. When Trump put out that saying he's going to put 100% tariffs on movies and films that come into the U.S. And, because, Hollywood North, they were calling it here for quite a while. And there you go. Well, we're waiting to see.
Well, so many films and TV shows where you can just tell that it's British Columbia. Yeah. Like I was watching one not so long ago, the Shogun TV series, which is very good. Obviously supposed to be set in Japan, but they filmed it in BC. And it's just kind of, there's so many movies, no point even going through them all. Rambo as well was filmed in BC.
Rambo's an old one, that's right. Shot in Hope, BC. There you go. Yeah. You put this one in, so I'll let you lead into this. I'm not sure what this is. Renew Britain.
This is more for you actually, but we should just listen to the. Do
we have it?
The speech. This is Ed Miliband, he's almost like the number 2, number 3 most powerful person in the Labour government in the UK. He's the energy minister, and he is exceedingly dedicated to net zero. Okay. He's passionately pro net zero.
We don't have the slide here, but we will play the video here. Let's play the clip here.
Was just the snake oil. The threat from reform goes way beyond their climate denying agenda. You see, the truth is, I wish Nigel Farage was just the snake oil Tory city boy we've known about for years. He's actually morphed into something even more dangerous. He's now a key part of a global network that wants to destroy the ties that bind our communities and our way of life. And I can sum up the threat for you in 2 words. Elon Musk.
That's good. That's good enough for me. There you go.
There's a funnier bit at the end where he tries to look really scary, and he goes, "You're not gonna do it, Elon," or something like that. I just thought it was interesting to see that it's not just Canadian leaders that want to talk about Elon Musk as though he's like some kind of octopus controlling the world.
Isn't that weird? Freedom of speech. Elon Musk is a free speech absolutist for sure. And the people that say they defend democracy every day, and the threat to democracy is, and their threat to democracy is what? Freedom of speech. Isn't that weird? The threat to democracy is actually freedom. Your freedom is the threat to democracy.
Yep.
If you want to believe it, then go ahead.
Very interesting. But this is also, just have to remember, like that guy there is part of the government that Mark Carney seems to be very, very close to. And, he's met the Prime Minister of that country 4 times, is it now? I think it's 4, maybe 5. It's just something, keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on what comes out of Britain, because there's a reasonable chance that it'll come out of Canada.
I'm going to say something that's going to be very controversial. It's probably going to set some people off, but I'll say it anyway because I believe it. Your freedom was provided to you by God. Governments have worked very hard at restricting your rights and freedoms. That's what they do. And in Canada, we don't have the protections that are afforded by the U.S., their Bill of Rights and U.S. Constitution and that. Like Canada, the United States has exported, I've done a really good interview with a lawyer here in Canada, they've exported a lot of their culture wars into the rest of the world, but we don't have the protections that's offered by their founding fathers. And, some of those people that you think they're from like time travelers or whatever, because they wrote the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. that kind of like factored into a lot of stuff going on today. But we don't have those protections. What we have here in calling Canada is a charter. And then they say they put guardrails. And if you go read that paragraph that talks about guardrails, what this government kind of does is just keeps compressing those guardrails. So there you go.
And it's not just freedom of speech; it's all kinds of things, isn't it? The Americans sort of figured this all out in the 1770s, didn't they? And later as well. And in the 18th and 19th centuries, the Americans figured all this constitutional stuff out, but it hasn't been figured out here in Canada.
No.
And it's a good point, yeah, because we suffer, and I don't know if we're going to talk about that thing later on, the survey about Indigenous land ownership or whatever. But that's another thing. It's like in America, they figured all that out. They're not going to have any arguments in America about who owns what land and that kind of thing. It's a weakness of Canada's that we didn't figure that out, and we're kind of doing it now, like on the hoof, aren't we?
Well, again, if you distract enough people all the time, you know, they won't look at you raiding the till, and they won't even notice you stealing like en masse out of the till. So the U.S. government is shut down, and apparently, according to many people, that the world was going to melt. But the U.S. government has shut down many times in the past, and it hasn't ended up in melting the world. Actually, this probably plays right into Trump's hands, because like there's supposedly all these people that are going to quit, and probably just like a massive win for the Doge people. Again, the markets are just flat today, so mostly green. The Dow's off a bit, but the Nasdaq's up. So not the what they said it was going to be. And then Elon Musk, the devil, according to the Brits, his stock is up massively in the last little while. I mean, if you listen to that nonsense and don't realize that Elon Musk is probably the most important person right now as far as technology goes, because technology is changing this world, and he is leading in all of the leading industries. I mean, literally, we should be so thankful that there's this one man who could easily just ignore us, the rest of us that fight for our freedom every day, including us here in an independent news outlet that fight for our freedom every day, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, that there is a guy out there that has immense resources and power that fights for our same right to speak freely, while other people want to take away our right to speak in the interest of protecting us from ourselves, which is, strange, isn't it? Like Trump announced that deal. He said that Israel has agreed to it, but he said that Saudi Arabia has agreed to it, Jordan, Turkey, Indonesia, Egypt. Even Mark Carney came out and supported the deal. The only people not agreeing to the deal is Hamas. And Trump did issue an ultimatum and say, like, if Hamas didn't agree right away, then he has the blessing in the United States to go in there and just, I don't know what worse you could do, but apparently there's a worse. I don't know what that worse could be.
I mean, this is the right sort of PR approach, at least from Israel, I would say, and the Americans, to say, like, look, here's a deal. Let's go. If you don't agree to it, we're gonna be angry, kind of thing. But I feel like they missed so many opportunities to look like the pro-peace side. So they've taken some huge damage, Israel and the US, taken massive reputational damage from this war. So I think if you're pro-American, pro-Israeli, the sooner this war's over, the better.
We talk about censorship, we talk about freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom that has been granted to you. Because nobody's more important than anybody on the planet. But somehow the people that have grifted their way into power have decided that your freedoms don't matter. Your ability to feed your family doesn't matter. Remember what Trudeau said? What did he say? I know it's tough. You may not be able to pay your rent. You may not be able to buy groceries. But we're fighting a much bigger battle, people. We're fighting climate change. So you need to sacrifice yourself. Meanwhile, is he not just grifting all around the world right now? Grifting, flying around, just, partying like it's 1995?
It's just so painful. It's so painful to be reminded of what he would say about climate change. He was so ill-informed. He had absolutely no idea what
Mark Miller
even
said you
the
couldn't even drive
International
across
Panel on
Canada.
Climate Change.
Yeah.
Even the IPCC, the world's foremost experts, they must have been shaking their head when he would speak. He was talking about the world coming to an end, like, as if it was that important. Even the worst case scenario from the IPCC is not that bad. It's not like the end of the world. I just wish more people knew about this, but I suppose in that kind of bubble of ignorance, that's how people like Trudeau can prosper, and even Elizabeth May, you might say.
YouTube, another one settling with Donald Trump on censorship. We talk about freedom of speech. So YouTube coughing up $24 million for his 2021 suspension of his channel. So now, so far, what do we got here? We got Facebook paid $25 million, Twitter paid 10, ABC News 15, and because remember that he was a sitting president when they shut him off. Remember that when the deciders of freedom, the defenders of democracy decided the sitting president of the United States did not have the right to freedom of expression. Isn't that wild?
I could not believe that. And I still, this has happened, okay, and this is kind of might be looked at as nipping it in the bud. This is an end. But I don't feel like we've even begun to comprehend what happened there. That was absolutely insane, wasn't it? When he was
right now,
he was banned from all media outlets, but the most important media outlets, social media outlets, while still president. It was absolutely insane that happened.
And in Canada right now, there's a few bills trying to be passed. I'm going to interview John Carpe here. I think it's next week. He's from the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. Canada's at a real big crossroads right here, where they're going to try and they don't like X. They do not like X. Neither does, obviously, who doesn't like X? The UK don't like X, do they? I mean, if they could shut it down, they would. I think the only thing scaring them, Keir Starmer, is Vance's speech there. Remember, if you censor Americans, you'll pay the price for it.
Yeah, that's given them pause, hasn't it? For
J.D.
sure.
Vance has said
and also the fact that in Britain you have Reform, Nigel Farage's party is ahead in the polls. I think that scares them, and they don't want to make that worse for themselves.
Elon Musk, again, being a very boisterous young man. He's after Netflix here because there was this show on Netflix that has it's targeting 7-year-olds apparently. With transgender stuff. And so Elon Musk has started this movement to cancel Netflix. And then you can see in this next slide here, a lot of people, definitely Elon fans have been canceling their Netflix. And it's reflected in the stock price of Netflix as well. If we look at Netflix right now, it's off, we've got a chart here. Netflix is off $27 this morning, but just over 2% down right now. Netflix down on this pressure here from these cancellations.
I mean, I can think of a number of reasons to cancel Netflix, not just whatever it is that Musk is going on about there. I'd say the fact that at least 80% of what is on there is just pure garbage, like the worst of the worst. Worse than AI, worse than typing in a scenario into AI and watching the video, like much worse than that. And yet people pay money for that.
I was mentioning to my daughter that, there's this movement out there to cancel Netflix, and my granddaughter heard it. She's like, no, Papa, that's where I watch Gabby's Dollhouse.
Yeah, they've got a few kids things on there. I think they've got Paw Patrol on there as well, which is a very popular kids show. There
you go. Here's Ursula taking center stage, and I think this is our last story of the day. Ursula von der Leyen. I don't know if I said that right or not, but...
von der Leyen.
Von der Leyen, there you go. Ursula's, let's listen on Ursula here.
We live in troubled times. The Russian war against Ukraine is still ongoing. We see that Russia is testing our resolve. So these are times where it is absolutely paramount that we have a common sense of urgency and unity to address these challenges. And therefore this informal European Council in Copenhagen comes just at the right time. We're going to discuss two topics. One is defense and the other one is Ukraine. On defense, my commission has prepared a scoping paper to discuss the direction of action, but also, for example, flagships like the drone wall. And if it comes to Ukraine,
I think there's about $4 billion they're going to chuck at the Ukrainians there, and drones, and at some point that's got to come to an end, this war. Trump, you bragged about getting that thing done. Let's get it done. Hey?
Well, now he's completely changed his tune, hasn't he? So I don't know what to make of that. I mean, it seems like that's a bad sign. He's completely turned on Russia. That suggests that he doesn't see a deal on the table. So it looks like more of the same, doesn't it?
I've interviewed a young man here. I think he was 17 years old. I've done a few interviews with the Friends of Ukraine. And this young man, he seems to be having a tough time getting his temporary or his permanent residency here. So he's scheduled to be shipped back as he turns 18, so he can be, part of the meat grinder. It's odd that they wouldn't prioritize this young man. His life is actually in danger. And they said one of the reasons that they wasn't getting it was because he didn't speak good enough English. Go watch the interview with him. He spoke pretty good English. I don't speak Russian or Ukrainian, so we had a conversation that went very well. So not sure why he didn't speak good enough English.
Yeah, well, God knows what's going on with that one, but that is quite a sad story, isn't it? And then there's a number of stories like that in Ukraine. Lots of people that don't want to fight for various reasons and being forced to.
How many youth have given their lives already? How many?
Well,
how many are enough?
What are they? I think they're conscripting people. Is it over 40, over 50 even? I've seen some very old-looking dudes on the front lines.
Yeah, they've raised the age, they lowered the age, and it just pushed more people into the meat grinder. Really?
Well, they're completely, from their perspective, they're completely desperate, aren't they? They've run out of manpower.
They should do is
a similar story is on the cards in Russia as well, but they have a lot of sort of mercenaries that they can put in there.
Yeah, they're paying them. They're saying, hey, if you want to go, and at least your family will get a bunch of money or something. So they are paying them. He shared some interesting things there, because his dad fights in the front lines. You can watch the interview. You can find it on our NowMedia thing. He shared some interesting. He actually showed me the map too that shows you all the drone incursions for the day. And he said it used to be like 100 a day you would get, but now it's like flies. It was like 500 drones. He showed me on this heat map that they have. I don't know how they're getting this stuff, but Starlink again. Elon Musk, the devil, was provided Starlink to Ukraine to help them, but apparently he is. What did the guy do? Didn't he do his finger? There's only 2 words I want to say. I got a word for you.
He increases the intensity in his final little peroration.
Yeah. The threat to democracy is the people screaming about threats to democracy. Those are the people. They're trying to silence people. They need to open the dictionary and see what democracy, the definition of democracy is, because it's surely different from what they're trying to sell as democracy.
It is quite a hard word to define, but ultimately it means rule of the people. And that doesn't seem to be a description of the political system of Mark Carney might be one, Keir Starmer certainly. Yeah. Just in its most basic definition, which is rule of the people, government by the people.
Of the people, for the people. That's,
not really
the
seeing
Americans.
that.
The Americans, again, their Bill of Rights and Constitution, a lot of people think they have those. They don't. Go watch the interview I did with that lawyer, Canadian lawyer, on our Charter of Rights compared to theirs. Big difference, right? And what we have here is a government that uses this vague paragraph in our Charter of Rights, this vague paragraph, and continues to compress our freedoms. And then you'll have them saying, like Sean Fraser will come out and say, how we need to protect people from people by taking away more rights. Isn't that how it works?
Well, that's because in the Charter and in a lot of the laws here on the books in Canada, their rights like freedom of speech are qualified. A qualified right or a conditional right can always be taken away if there's something more serious.
That's the paragraph. You need to read that paragraph. and then understand it and how they interpret it to continue to compress your freedoms.
Don't accept conditional rights. I think that's the lesson from the United States, because the First Amendment is not conditional at all. It's just like, these are your rights. There you go. And there's no conditions.
Yeah. That's our show for today. Again, if you can help us out by sharing, commenting, liking, send it to some friends that say that, if some people saying this is a great show. If you could share it with some friends, 5 friends, ask them to share it, because Bill C-18 is crushing free, local, independent media in Canada. Close to 100 have failed already since 2 years of this Bill C-18 that the government put into place here, which doesn't allow us to put our content on Facebook or Instagram. It took away our audience of 200,000, and in the same time, the government selectively decides who they want to feed at the trough. They're feeding companies like, Cult Media. You remember that? They gave that. And then the other one we talked about the other day, they got 900,000. The Anti-Hate Network was getting $1 million a year, and all they did was promote hate. And then CBC, obviously, just like living large at the trough. $1.55 billion a year. $1.55 billion a year. Imagine.
But also, we talk a lot about climate. They love to fund media outlets that spread the most wacky fringe sort of climate extremism, climate alarmism that is not based on any evidence whatsoever that we possess.
Well, that's our show for today. Thank you. I've got another one here in about 4 minutes, so I got to jump. With that said, thank you for watching Now Media.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.